And we're live. Hey, welcome to the Paul Pate Podcast. Today's guest is Kevin Cross.
Hi.
Hey, Kevin. I'll let you introduce yourself. I call you an artist. I looked at your artwork, and it's really good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Want to tell us about what you're up to?
Well, yeah, I'm an artist.
I could do like the big... and now the most, the blah, blah, blah. But I'll just let you do it.
I'm going to turn even redder than I already am. So, yeah, I'm Kevin Cross. I've been working as an illustrator for about 16 years now. Doing everything from like skateboard decks, graphics, that kind of thing, to most recently children's books. And all within that 16 years, I've worked in and out of comics, and currently very in comics.
Your main comic is Monkey Mod.
Yeah, it started off as a mini comic that I did. I guess I worked on it at the end of 2008-ish. Came out in 2009, and then that was going to jumpstart, regular comics. Because originally it was just going to be a one and done mini comic. But I couldn't stop drawing the character, and as I was doing that, more and more ideas flooded in. So then it became this idea that I wanted to do as a regular comic series, which then, of course, client work, becoming a new father, things like that got in the way. So it actually took me another 5 years after that to start working on it again.
Wow.
But that's what I've been doing since about mid 2014 or so. It's been going very slowly, but...
Now you have client work like the graphics and skateboard decks, but you also have client work that's in comics?
Yeah.
Okay.
My very, very first job that I got in the business was from a roommate of mine. I was still an art student, and it's a funny story. I'll make it short, but I went to school late, about 10 years after graduating high school.
Oh, okay.
And so I get into this animation class, and the teacher of the class walks in, unbeknownst to me, guy my age, wearing a punk rock t-shirt like I was wearing. So I think, I'm a new student. That's probably the guy I'm going to be friends with in this class. He's got a punk rock shirt.
Right.
He's my age,
Right.
He gets up and starts teaching the class. Anyway, so... we become friends over time and everything. He becomes my roommate at one point. And he, in the meantime, is like working as an inker for Marvel and DC.
Okay.
And taking a lot of work on. And also teaching me to ink as well at home, And in doing that, he's having me ink a bunch of backgrounds. He's starting to pay me, to be an ink assistant. And so that was my foot in with comics. And then, I've been a comic nerd on and off. I'm going to say on my whole life, but I've actively collected on and off. Not a big fan of all the events and stuff like that.
Oh, you're just a hardcore collector, more or less?
No, I'm not a I wouldn't say I'm a collector necessarily. Like, I grew up, I'm 44 years old, so I grew up, the Bronze Age of comics, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I do collect Bronze Age comics and some Silver Age comics, but I'm not, I don't have to collect across the board.
Right.
I just, if I collect a run, I don't like it, it gets sold. I just keep the stuff I like. I want to keep.
You.
Yeah. But anyway, so I've loved comics my whole life, and when I say in and out, it's like, the 90s crash and boom and everything like that. I was like not into it, so I was out, and then I got back in a couple other times. One was like during like Civil War when Marvel was doing that. I got back in a little bit, and then that went right into another event, and I was like, screw this, I'm out. So, but so anyway, I guess I'm setting this up. This is a very long way of saying I've been interested in comics for a very long time.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was doing some assistant inking, and that was like one of my first gigs, and then I was a colorist in comics for a while, and then my illustration career started taking off, and then I've been a skateboarder, a punk rocker for since the 80s as well, and so then all of a sudden it was like I was doing comic style art for album covers, and and that kind of art, the like bold colors and brush ink lines and stuff translates to skateboard graphics really well and stuff. So
Right.
so I started doing that, and and then I kind of do a couple other little odd jobs here and there in comics. I worked for Marvel Entertainment doing some licensing stuff before, and that was a big wake up call in comics because I was working much less and making like three times as much money doing
Huh.
licensing than comics.
Licensing
So
in comics.
yeah, like licensing their comic characters.
Okay.
Like I did storyboards for a couple video games for some Marvel properties, um, like some illustration for a cards game, or yeah, for like a collectible card game,
Right.
but for
Right.
kids for the superhero squad, Marvel superhero squad
Okay.
property, things like that, and man, the money's so much better. And then that
That's
was like
huge.
when this kind of epiphany hit that if I want to do comics and make hardly any money, I should just do my own. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was like the seed of me getting back into doing monkey.
Wait, that totally went a different direction than I thought you were going to say. You're like, this is how I'm going to make a living. And you're like, no, I want to do my own stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a very pro artists doing their own vision. Like, um, like right now I'm working on a graphic novel,
Uh huh.
and I'm about done with it. And
Okay.
it was supposed to be done at the end of December. Here we are 2 weeks in, and there's some other things they want me to do, some revisions, things like that. And it looks like it's going to take till February, and it's killing me
Because
because
you want to do monkey
I
money.
want to do my own thing.
Right.
Um, and I can get back to how I work on my own thing with all this stuff because it's like I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad, but I'm also a full-time with a full-time job, so it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's and comics are a lot of work, you know.
Yeah.
And so
And so is a 4-year-old.
yeah, yeah. So it's a little rough, um but yeah, it's like I'm not saying that I don't want to work in comics because I hate the industry or anything. It's that and this is going to sound maybe not very nice, but like as far as like what the bigger companies are doing these days, I don't care anymore. I just don't care. Like
Okay.
um I don't have the money for one to keep up. For two, it's like because it's like these storylines, you have to buy like 25 comics a month, I might
Yeah.
probably exaggerating, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And nowadays um there's 20 pages of story in a comic, and it's not like the comics I grew up on. Maybe it's because I'm like a nostalgical fool at this point too. I'll say that's fair enough. I'll own up to that. But it's like there's snippets of a story, whereas
Yeah.
before you might get like a mini series or something like that, but you're getting Act One, Act Two, Act Three, story's done. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And,
yeah, that's a big pet peeve of mine. I
yeah,
mean, if you want me to pay money, give me like a beginning, a middle, and an end at least.
yeah. I mean, if you want it to
Right.
be a continuing series, like let's do like the 4 issue miniseries again, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You issue one can be Act One, issue two and three is Act Two, and the conclusion,
Yeah.
that stuff. But now it's too much.
It's kind
It's
of
too much
ridiculous.
of an investment a little bit. Some of these properties are going on, and they're properties I love, granted, So I'm
Uh-huh.
not trying to diss like characters. I still love a lot of these like really popular characters and stuff. But some of these characters, these intellectual properties, they're going on 75 years or so,
Yeah.
and I think that's great that they've had. I love that they've had that longevity. But what it's doing, in a sense, is stopping growth for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's decades of more creators that have new
It's
ideas, good ideas, and then you've got these corporate companies that are putting rules on ideas, and because of fear of paying rent and things like that, sometimes creators become trapped and emboldened to follow these rules. And yes, it's a creative job, but you've got editorial and all kinds of stuff like reining you in, so you can't be fully creative.
right.
So that's why I'm an advocate of you got to do your own stuff. And what I'm seeing a lot from friends, because I have friends now who have made names in comics for themselves. I'm like the last dude or something, like the unfamous friend or something, but um, where they worked their ass off doing indie comics
Uh-huh.
and then that became and stuff they were really passionate about, and then and they started off not that great at what they were doing,
Right.
and then like everybody who does any kind of craft, right?
Yeah.
And then they get to a point where the stuff starts becoming great, and then that's when the company starts snatching them up, and in their head they're thinking of when they were a little kid. Holy shit, I get to write Spider-Man, I get to draw Captain America,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
they get stuck, and then they go in there, with this resume. Oh, I've kind of made it. I'm working on this big thing now, and then I've been seeing and hearing from them this like mindset of like, oh, then it's just a regular job, with someone telling me what to do all the
Yeah,
time,
man. That would be a
and
drag.
yeah,
Yeah.
and now I don't have time to work on my own thing because as creative people, you know, we want to create. We don't just want to be a set of hands all the time,
Yep.
because someone can't write, we're the writers. Because someone can't draw, we have to draw their thing. It's like the on my YouTube channel, my sort of mantra that always goes on there is that I'm tired of working on other people's dreams and neglecting my own. So I'm going to start doing that now.
Uh-huh.
But so anyway, they work on their indie comics, becomes the resume for them to get hired for these big companies, and then they become disillusioned and bitter, and then quit to go to Image, stuff like that, to start working on their own creations, right? And so I'm at this point where I've done a bunch of stuff in comics, I've done a bunch of mini comics, I've worked for companies, and I'm I'm not like the famous DC guy or the
You're just
famous.
gonna skip all the fame and
I'm,
fortune
I'm
and go
skipping all
right,
that, and I'm going. I'm
right
like,
to the.
I don't want to get bummed out by the big
the
companies, and
yeah.
because I'm already working on a graphic novel, I know how hard it is, and how little it pays, and how little it paid when I was a colorist, and how little it
Right.
paid when I was assistant inking and stuff like that. And so I'm like, I'm gonna bypass all that and just go keep indie, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Um,
Yeah. You
so.
bypass the fame and fortune, but also the dump at the end.
Yeah, but see, with that fame and fortune, there's a lot less fortune.
No, I
It's
know. I mean,
yeah,
well, I actually I don't, but
yeah.
yeah,
It's
I can imagine.
you can go to like San Diego Comic-Con or something like that, and you see a lot of fame, but then when it's
Right.
over, if you're friends with those people, you see a lot of misfortune. You see a lot of it's a day job, just like all of us have.
Right.
At that
Right.
convention, they're revered by the fans, but
Right.
in their daily life, the people on their street don't know that they're a celebrity in a certain realm,
Right.
and they still have to take the trash out on Thursday night.
Right.
They're still like looking at prices and coupons at the grocery store.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
There's I mean there's some comic creators obviously that have gotten very famous and gotten a good amount of money from it, but that's not necessarily the norm.
Right.
So anyway,
Wow. Interesting. Um.
uh, yeah, so
So
I just want to get out and work on my own stuff
now,
and
are
make
you
my own
on
thing.
your graphic novel? Are you doing? You're just doing like the inking or the back, what's your role in that?
So the one I'm working on right now is for a publisher, and my role on that is everything but writing. So,
Oh, okay.
um, and it's this has been a job that has been a good kick in the pants to remind me of my original mission statement to start trying to phase out clients and start making my own art and my own comic being like one of the big linchpins of that. Um, becoming my income, my
Right.
own vision, I guess. Put my own
Right.
vision out in the world instead of being that set of hands I was talking
Right.
about.
Right.
So in this graphic novel, um, it's I usually have to start when I do have the full days when I work, when I'm not
Right.
like the full-time dad. Um, I have to do finish a page from blank page. I've got the script, got a blank page to work from.
Okay.
I do roughs, pencils, letters, colors, inks, like the whole thing
Okay.
in like a day. And usually you look at a comic and it's like this list of names all doing those things.
Right.
And I'm getting poorly to do all of those things. So yeah, it's a good kick in the pants to work on my comic. And so I started this thing called 100 Days of Making Comics on my YouTube channel, and some other people caught on.
You used
It
to.
was around a little bit before I started working on this graphic novel.
Uh-huh.
I just done this finished work on this kid's book and was becoming disillusioned or had already become disillusioned with the industry. And then I was about to start this graphic novel. And in between that time period, I was able to make a living off my own art. And that disillusionment plus that, plus my need to get back to Monkey Mind after years was like really weighing heavily on me. And so anyway, so I said for 100 days in a row, and this is also based on, should back up. There's a website that's called something like 100 Days to Mastery or something like that, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a self-help, little bit cheesy, kind of self-help website.
I like those
Um,
cheesy self-help things.
right, but it's pretty cool because it's like it's all these people, and it's like you sign up or something, and you commit to 100 days
Yeah.
of I want to learn how to dance, I want to learn how to cook, and then you kind of vlog about it. So I
Right.
took that idea and put it on my own thing, and
100 Days to Make Comics.
100
You
Days.
you came up with that.
I think so. You know, I
Wow. I mean, because that's all over the place. I've seen that.
um, you know,
That's cool. I didn't know
so
they. Okay.
so I started doing that. Yeah, and a lot of people it like caught on. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, that went
and
viral.
which is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, that made me feel good.
yeah,
My ego a bit, I guess, but it
yeah,
was just also it felt even better that like so many other artists were just like, yeah, I'm taking control of what I want instead of what
yeah.
they want.
That's great.
You know.
Yeah.
So the idea with 100 Days of Making Comics was, um, if you work at least 30 minutes a day on your own project,
Hmm.
that's better than nothing, and you'll see progress over time.
Yeah.
So now it's not a lot of time, and the people who have followed me have seen how like you know uh, it appears that it's going very slow. My work is going very slow,
Hmm.
but if like I really with all my other obligations, 99% of the time only have 30 minutes a day that I can squeak in.
Right.
And usually that's time I'm getting ready for bed. So now it's pushing bedtime 30 minutes back, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's a
That's
commitment,
tough. Yeah.
And plus doing the vlog on top of that. So you got the video commitment on top of that.
Hmm.
Um, and some people don't do it who are doing the 100 days making comics. I understand why, because that's a bunch of other work, but I think it's a little bit detrimental to do it without that because
Oh,
yeah,
without the.
because it's getting eyes on your comic like
Ah,
as
I,
it's going,
right.
it's like it's getting interest for your comic that you might not have and that you might have to hustle for when it's done, some things like that, if you know what I
Right.
mean.
Yeah.
So this is all the stuff I was thinking about when I was going into it. But so yeah, so after 100 days, 30 minutes a day, that's only 50 hours. For me, that's a work week. I've done it
Right.
three
That's.
times. So in the course of like a little over a year, maybe a year and a half now at this point, I've really worked 3 days on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I've
Right.
done 300 days of making comics.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
what I've done in that time was written a script, done 3 revisions on it, there's a story arc here that would constitute 4 issues, 4 comic issues.
Right.
There's possibility for 6 if I want to get a little too um, use a little too much exposition, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But so essentially we'll say it's a 4 issue story arc. Um, so the first one's already written. It's halfway penciled. I'm lettering on the page, so that's also half lettered. Um, I've written a draft of the second issue already. There's outlines for issue 3 and 4.
Okay.
And that chunk that will constitute a graphic novel. Those 4,
Okay.
the story from beginning to end.
Right. Right.
And now what I'm so antsy about finishing this graphic novel and getting that over with is because I've been saying no to all my client requests, which is going
Right.
to be really hard because as soon as this is done, I'm
Off.
not working on my comic 30 minutes a day. I'm working on it
Off.
as my job, as if it's my job that pays.
Right.
In the meantime, I'm going to have to do paintings, things like that I was doing commissions for, you know, normal people, not
I
companies,
I got you.
to make the money. So that's something, I got to work out the schedule with there a little bit so I can still make money. Um, but yeah, so it's going to, anyway, I'm really excited. It's going to go much faster, than a
Right.
year and a
Right.
half to get to a half comic. But it's still, when I look back, and that like, 150 hours. That's a lot. I did a lot already, so
Right.
pretty excited.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure once you clear your plate, it'll come together. Um, so if I was to do the 100 days of comics, I'm just trying to understand this.
Okay.
So I sort of make like a video commitment to it, right? That's
Yeah.
the vlog part of
The
it?
yeah, the idea, like some people, I'm a proponent of doing vlogs.
Right.
Even if it's just a minute. You get
Right.
your phone out, you say like, "Hey, today I inked this page. I'm really
Right.
excited about it.
Or
This is a
you
good
could
story point."
you could even
Yeah.
just do a Facebook like
Right.
status update.
Right. I mean, but I think that if you put a video up on YouTube, you're going to get a bigger audience.
Right.
People
Right.
interested in stuff.
Okay.
And that's like the crass marketing before you really need to market, I guess.
Right.
Pre-marketing, I
Right. Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Other people do vlogs on Tumblr or WordPress or something like that
Yeah.
who don't feel comfortable doing that. Some people do just, there's a group, just it's called The Hundreds, and it's THEE,
Mm-hmm.
The Hundreds, um, the number 100 with a
Uh-huh.
little S on the end. There's a Facebook group for that. It's kind of a support group too, as well.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and some people just post on there,
Yeah.
which is
Interesting.
fine. But the idea is that essentially you do what's comfortable for you,
Right.
really. But
Right.
the idea is you work on it every single day for at least 30 minutes. Some people have done more. Some people have done an hour.
Yeah.
Some people have done two, whatever. But at least that. But put something out in public
Right.
somewhere so that people hold you accountable to it.
Right. Right.
Because then that holds you accountable to it. Because
Right.
then, oh, I don't want to let them down. I don't want them to call me names. I don't want them to make me feel bad,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then after the first 100 days, how it's felt for me, and I've heard this from others, is that it's kind of life changing. It gives you this drive. And then at the end of the 100 day, at first it's kind of tough,
Right.
and then at the end you're like, oh, I did it. Whew.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say a little over half the people are doing it their second time now.
Right. Yeah.
Because
Because you say I can do that again. I did it.
yeah, you
Right.
think about it, and then you're like, oh, and in between my first time I did 100 days and the second time I did 100 days, I noticed I was falling into old habits,
Mm.
where I was not even touching my comic, or,
Oh.
I was devoting way too much of my energy to client stuff, um, when and that was making me very unhappy, So I was like, I got
Right.
to do it again. I
Right.
did it again, and then I did it the third time, and then at the end of the third time, I was like, it's nothing. This is just what I do now. Now this is
Right.
how I operate.
Cool.
So I think it's beneficial for there because everyone's got excuses why they're not doing their own project.
Right.
And this kind of is like I've got excuses, but screw all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little time commitment. And now when I work on it just 30 minutes a day, I get kind of angry that I can't work on it an hour.
Yeah.
If I get an hour, I'm angry I can't work on it 2 hours. So
Right. That's cool. For
yeah,
me, for years, I was one of those people that I talked about doing comics and talked about it.
yeah,
And
me too.
would start one and then get 20 pages into something and then, yeah, this sucks. And then, and then just it was fits and starts for years.
Yeah,
And then, you get older and more mature or just hard-headed or something. And I completed a project. I said, I'm going to complete something so I have something to show. And I didn't talk about it until I was done.
right.
But
Yeah,
now I don't have that problem. I mean, I work too much on my own stuff. So, um,
I think that's great.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
gotta figure out how to make it your living now. You know.
Yeah, so yeah, how does that work? I mean, I don't even, I'm like negative in the I spend more on my pro, because I don't market it or anything,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
there's
buy my
that.
own book, and have copies so that I can sell to friends and family
Right.
and things. But
Yeah. And I'm gonna preface this by saying I'm no expert because I'm learning
yeah.
as I go. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, so, as far as marketing stuff, I have the experience from that in becoming an illustrator. You have to
Right.
market yourself to get work, and
Right.
I've got the years behind that. Um, like you're onto something here with a podcast. Years ago, I was on two podcasts that were about illustration and comics. There's one art and story, and another one called Big Illustration Party Time. So I was able to get some of the fans of those shows to come along with me for the ride, and
Hmm.
then then I started to concentrate that kind of stuff on YouTube, and um, a lot of them were good enough to like kind of share the videos and stuff like that, or join 100 Days of Making Comics,
Right.
which kind of has my name attached to it.
Yeah.
So it's pulling in stuff like that. But it's like a years long process.
Right.
So now I've got people who have seen me do actual work like, oh, hey, today I'm getting to penciling. I'm done
Yeah.
with the roughs. I'm getting to penciling. So here, and
Yeah.
then I'll talk about my thoughts about penciling while the camera's on me drawing.
Yeah.
You know
That's cool.
some pages and stuff. So that's up there, and so that got interest. And so even though there's only that mini comic that's out, excuse me, um, that's still just a little thing to grab onto. But somehow, because of like my mission statement and me doing this beforehand, or showing my process as it's coming out, it's like
Hmm.
um, it's it's just generated some interest. But even though there is some, it's still going to be a lot of work for me, after
Yeah.
my client work's done, because then it's like I really gotta, I've been talking a lot. I gotta like, you know,
You're gonna
I
be
gotta deliver,
fine. You're gonna be fine. But you know what though? Like like I said, I was like that for years. And I
Yeah, me
think
too.
like with your story, what you just said though, succinct. It was like it's succinctly. Um, it's the story of so many of us. I think that the people that I've talked to on my podcast so far, that's their story. And you're. It's like this is what you do about it. This is how
Yeah,
you do it. And so that's got to be a huge draw because there's so many of us. I mean, I don't
right.
feel like I'm in that right now. I don't feel like I'm in that boat anymore because I'm able. I got other issues, but as far
Right.
as like the work, putting the work in and dedicating yourself to it. Um,
Exactly. Yeah, because I was like between, like, there were several start and stops with Monkey Mod, you know,
right,
that I did kind of leave out in this beginning because they were just it was like I would do a few pages and I was like, where am I going with this?
right.
Or something. And then having done all this work that goes nowhere and stuff like that, and then yeah, I think you get a little bit older, like you said, or a little wiser, and start really deconstructing stories, how to do it, and
Hmm.
um, things like that. And then now there's like I've gotten some criticism for this. I do tons of prep work before pencil even hits a page
Oh,
on the
really?
comic. Um, yeah, like the first story, or the first not first story, first issue. It's it's got four drafts. That doesn't include the two outlines that went before it. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
right.
And then I have to, but that has to be an outline over the overall arc first. So that had to be revised a couple times first, for you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All these people, no, no, that's too much. And then people are saying like I'm doing like too many roughs first, before I
Oh,
go to final pencils, things like that. I've gotten that criticism. And but then when I do the pencils, I'm like, whoop, done. And
uh,
so next things, whoop, it's gonna be done. Color,
uh,
whoop, just
because of all the
is
preparation.
all the prep work. And so I think when people see what I'm doing and follow along on YouTube,
Right,
I'm hoping that people will see that,
right.
like, hey, do all this work because it's gonna be less headache later. And so that was one of the things I learned with all the start and stops, and then seeing, like, bringing it back to what you were just saying, is like seeing that it's like this common thing with so many creative people is like starting these projects, get discouraged because you already started it once, and then you do it three times, and then you're like,
Yeah,
screw this, but it's
right,
still in the back of your mind, it's still bothering you because you're not getting to it,
right.
and
Yeah, you've.
so I got to this point where working on enough books with story, kids books, whatever, comics,
Mhm.
that and then working on other people's, and having to work on some things that are just abysmally written, um, you know, or the pay's bad, or the contract you thought was going to go one way, and they're throwing these curveballs that make your rate less, and it becomes this like miserable
Yeah.
experience.
Hmm.
It's like taking all this like start and stop stuff, but at the same time kind of studying um, story, like not
Right.
necessarily the art, but story, like the craft of story, you
Yeah,
know.
that it to me that it comes down to that, you know.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like really paying attention to things. What do I like about certain comics, movies, anything that has a story?
Right.
What do I like about it? What don't I like about it? If it's a visual story medium like comics, um, like what is a good panel? What is not a good panel? And defining that stuff for me, you
Right.
know.
Right. Right.
Then reading like some like essays on good writing, and paying
Yeah.
attention to like Kurt Vonnegut's got these rules for writing, and Rod
Uh-huh.
Serling has rules for writing, and I love those guys, so
Uh-huh.
really diving
Uh-huh.
in with those guys. So I'm working on these things, miserable, studying this other stuff, wanting to do my thing, and then just getting pissed. I wasn't. Like the writing on this whatever book I'm working on sucks.
Uh-huh.
You know,
How does that get past
yeah. How does this? Yeah, exactly. How did this happen? Um, how did I get here? How did I get stuck here? So yeah, I got pissed, and it like had this really big breaking point, and that's where all of this that I'm doing now comes from.
uh-huh.
It sucks that it came from a negative, but
Ah.
it's a positive that came out of it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because other people, and me included, I've done this before. I get to that breaking point, and then I sulk.
Right.
You know,
Right, right, right.
something, and I've done that. I've done that,
Yeah, I think I've
and
done
I'm
that
old enough.
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm old enough now. I realize it doesn't feel good. I like to feel good. That
Yeah.
doesn't work. So go the other way. Make
Right.
something happen.
Yeah, do a half hour of comics and
Yeah, at least,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then get to the point, hopefully, where I am and a lot of the other people who have done it, where that half hour just isn't enough. Like in some of my vlogs before, I remember at first, like, oh man, I had to work on this client job all day and really had to shoehorn in that 30 minutes. It was really rough today to do that. And then by the end of this 100 days, it's like I'm like complaining that why didn't I say an hour?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So,
This is
um,
interesting because I think about how many okay, like I was in my like 20 early 20s, 21 or 22, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. I want to, I want to make a comic."
yeah,
I was well, one thing that happened to me was like, what does it take to be a comic book artist? And I look and you have to make an 8-page demo or what do you call that spread that you take around and show to
yeah, back
people
back then,
back then, right?
yeah, they're ash cans.
Okay, and so I tried a couple of those, and I wasn't very good, and I thought, wow, I come across like this is Todd McFarlane's, you know, and I go, yeah, I'm never ever going to be that good, that's awesome, and I could spend the rest of my life trying to make that, or I could just make my own,
That,
and so that's what I wanted to do. But for years I didn't, right?
yep,
So, but I didn't have like any guidance, like I think now is available, like the 100 Days of Drawing Comics, or just people talking about it like this. So think about how many like young people in that position now have the opportunity to get a little bit of you know guidance and be maybe you can turn one or two of them into being like productive comic creators instead of just bullshitting about it. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly. I totally know what you mean.
That would
And
be awesome.
there's a couple things I kind of want to address that you said there. One is like, yeah, are we about the same age?
Yeah, I got a couple years on
Okay.
you.
So there's a couple things um, like back when we were younger, it 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 did seem like there was like a higher wall to leap, for lack
Right.
of a better metaphor, right, to get in. Um, and it was harder to find the resources sometimes.
Mm-hmm,
There was
mm-hmm.
like you probably remember the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way book.
Yeah, I have that somewhere.
Yeah, I have it
Yeah.
somewhere too, but my office is so messed up right now. But um, it was like I loved that book when I was a kid, but it really doesn't tell you how to do anything. You know what I mean?
Really?
Um, so it was a lot harder. And so now when I see younger people with all of this we have available, all these avenues to get your stuff out, there's like web cartoonists who might not even be classically trained artists, and
Mm-hmm.
their stuff looks very naive, are making livings off of Patreon.
Yeah.
Um, and so when I see, excuse me, or hear people with excuses now, it's like, shut up,
Yeah.
shut up.
No patience for it.
I mean, I'm being kind of silly, but because there is like a lot of mental stuff you're talking about, like you're talking about, like if you like Todd McFarlane and you look at his stuff and you think, oh, that's so awesome, I wish I could do that, or um, uh, like for me, there was like I was well, the list could go on, so I won't even name them. I got a lot of favorites, but I could look at any of these guys or girls that I dig and be like, oh, these people are masters. I'll never get
Right.
to this point. Um, and that's a barrier for some people. I'm not good enough to do it now. I'll
Right.
do it later. But you're not going to get good enough unless you start now. And you're gonna suck, and you
Yeah.
have to suck, and you have to fail, and you're gonna fail,
Right.
and that's a good thing. It's a
Yeah.
platitude at this point. The more failures you do, the more you learn, the closer to success you get, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of banking, just as an aside, that I have been a captain, just a master at failing. So maybe the Monkey Mind Friend show is my one success, but anyway, so there's that whole thing you go through, you know, and I've done it. Everyone goes through it who's a creative person, um, and you compare,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
your stuff to your heroes. And this friend of mine that I was talking about before, who got my foot in into comics, really. He used to always say, compare and despair.
Right.
If you compare yourself to someone, you're never going to live up to like that idea of that person in your mind,
Right.
right? So for years, I didn't really heed what he was saying, and I would have a cork board above my drawing board with like, oh, there's John Romita. I love this drawing. I pin it up.
Right.
Here's a Gene Colan Dracula. I love that.
Right.
Um, Gene Colan Howard the Duck was one of my favorite. Like, because like his Dracula stuff was like painting with a pencil, but then he's cartooning and Howard the Duck. I was like, oh my God, he's amazing at
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I
Corkboard.
put it up, and then I would get to my illustration work or start working on my mini comics at that time or something, and get stuck because I would draw something and then I'd look at my like inspiration board, quote unquote,
Right.
and just be like, ah, fuck, I'm not this good. I'm not good. I'm not good enough. This is done. Rip up all my stuff,
Uh-huh.
you know, and I think that's another thing getting older is kind of see how crippling that is. So
Right. Right.
so for inspiration, what I think it is I think you keep your inspiration close, as in I've got these old comics that I love, artists, writers that I like. I'm really into like these old pulp books and stuff. I love the
Uh-huh.
the artists who do the covers for those and the writing. I love how ham-fisted they are.
Hmm.
But so I've got collections of those places. Even some books that are just the covers. Stuff like that. And I'll look through them if I'm feeling uninspired or something, or look at an artist I really like, and then put it away.
Right.
Do your work to your best of your ability, and don't look at that again
Right.
until
Right.
the next time you're stuck.
Yeah. Go
'Cause-
go confidently forward with you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
With your
exactly.
right.
And some of the stuff you like from that, inf from your influences, from your heroes, is gonna creep into your work, you
Yeah.
know, at some point, and then, but it's you're just gonna become a clone if you're just looking at it and aping it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
great
and
advice. I think that's great advice. Like,
and so
yeah.
this way you're learning from your heroes, and you're making it your own,
Yeah.
you know.
But
Like,
you're not tearing yourself
I
down.
there's certain things like hand poses that certain artists do that I really like. I still can't get down,
Right. Right.
and I might be able to get down if I found the drawings of their hand poses doing weird things and copied them. But it's I I, I don't have time for that now. I got to get stuff out, and and what's happened is, I love these hand poses from this artist.
Right.
I can't do them, so instead I'm doing. Hey, I was about to get all Garth Brooks. I'm doing the Kevin Cross hands. I'm doing my
Yeah.
hands. That's what
Right.
I'm.
Right.
So these are my hands now. Things like that. And
Yeah.
that's now part of my style. Or
Yeah. Yeah. Which isn't as sophisticated at the hands as you'd like to be, but it's where you're at. Right.
right, you know,
Yeah,
and it works, and no
yeah,
one calls me out on it. They're not, you know, no
yeah,
one's like,
yeah.
those
Because
are such bad hands.
they're damn good hands, you know. Because
Yeah,
everybody else is drawing like big
yeah, you
frying
know,
pans. Yeah.
it's you know, there's a lot of great artists in comics, of course, and you can sometimes just see who they're influenced by a little too much for my taste sometimes.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
And in the past, like maybe 5, 10 years, there's just so much Jim Lee,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just like, oh, Jim Lee drew 20 comics this month. I don't know how he did it, but there's like someone else's name on it, you know. And then there's another Jim Lee, someone else's name's on that one too, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is also great. Like when you're young
Yeah.
or newer, you don't have to be young. If you're newer into this, more amateur, I think um, that maybe in the very beginning you do copy their stuff to,
Mhm.
to get you started, you do
Mhm.
some muscle memory. So essentially what I'm talking about with the compare and despair stuff and put your influences away is when you really start running, you know, really start
Right.
going
Right.
with it.
Right.
Because in the beginning I remember um, like I copy like John Byrne X-Men stuff, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah.
that it's,
My graphic novels, I copied a guy I like. I mean, I was like, I want to make a graphic novel like that.
yeah.
But you know, it's my I turned it into my own. But
Yeah,
I
I mean
wasn't gonna, you know, I wasn't gonna do it. That was my, you know, bag of dicks. I was gonna eat. You know, this is what I got right now. And so I
right.
feel like I've developed over, you know, 500 pages of those comics, and you know,
Yeah.
now and then just other things that I've worked on. Now I've developed. I'm getting better. You know,
Right, right.
but
Yeah, so I mean, I guess maybe what I said before, that's my putting your influences away, but keeping them in the back of your head. That's my guide to artistic growth.
yeah, that was great
If that
advice.
makes sense.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, yeah, I think you really just all this talk today articulates a lot of struggles that a lot of comic artists that I by no means have talked to a lot, but um,
Yeah,
it
right now
really
is a great time.
articulates it really articulates you know the battles that you go through, but that you can do it. You know,
Right on.
so
Yeah, I mean, I think you can because like right now it's like the best time, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
It's the best time. Like, you know, webcomics had kind of a big boom and now they're just kind of a regular thing. You know, remember
yeah,
a few years ago everyone's talking about webcomics and there's
yeah.
people
How
making
to
careers off of webcomics. Now it's just a thing,
yeah,
you know. And then on top of that, you've got like all this print on demand stuff if you want to go that way. You've
yeah,
got uh, you know, YouTube, you've got you know, all kinds of social network
yeah,
outlets, you know.
yeah,
Um, it's
yeah.
there's so many avenues, so many ways to make this available. It's like, you know, when I was a kid and I wanted to make comics, I didn't know how to color a comic, you
Right,
know.
right.
You know, so it's like, and then I learned, you know, oh, they send it off to these people and they do these color charts with watercolors, and then they send it off to the printer, and the printer does it that way. But as a kid, I couldn't do that. But as a kid now, you know, I'm not a kid, but a kid
Right.
now can do
My 4 year old,
everything right here at the desk.
my 4 year old's got a Wacom tablet and a
Yeah,
Photoshop over there, right on the other side of the
yeah.
wall.
My daughter's going to be 4 in a month, and she has my old Wacom tablet, and yeah,
It's
and I've got
crazy.
files open up for her that she draws on, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Can you imagine if you were a kid and
yeah, that would be like some Star Trek shit, you know. Um,
how
but
awesome.
yeah, so I mean, like right now is perfect to be an independent creator of
Yeah.
whatever you
Yeah,
want, you know.
I totally feel like that.
Get
I
it
feel
out
like,
there, you know.
you know, I finally matured enough to where I could make my books, and voila, there's print on demand. You know,
Yeah,
so for me, you know, I don't make money off it, but for me, the big thrill is like to have some stranger buy my book, and
yeah,
then have them read it and write you like, hey, I like that.
right.
That just to me is like, wow, that is so cool. You know,
Yeah. Then
and
you check the note. Is this from mom? I don't even know this person. Even
yeah,
better.
yeah, right. My mom's like, make you know, buying my book and reading it, but whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know that, so yeah,
right. But
yeah, to
yeah, I
just
mean, it's
connect with
awesome. I
people.
think now the key is, you know, just um, if you're getting that kind of feedback, it's just find the avenue to get more, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. For me, I got this. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah. So
Cool.
yeah, right now, like my YouTube channel is the gist of it is mostly like this job I'm on is almost finished. So here's how we're making a business plan, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I watched the video. I think I told you I watched the video of you and Will Terrell, and
Yeah.
he was just kind of like, you know, like tearing you down, like
Yeah, no, he's like Will's a Will's a rat. Awesome dude, good friend.
Oh,
I'm like really glad that he's like one of my buddies because he's um a really he's very wise,
uh-huh.
as well as fun to be around. So he comes to visit me up here I live in Portland, Oregon, and he comes to visit, and we're just talking. He's like talking about how it must be so exciting because the end of the year's coming. I'm about to finish this client work and start working on my own stuff full time and blah blah. And I was like, yeah, it's gonna be so awesome. And like I'm gonna, I'm gonna set the world on fire with this new thing.
Yeah.
And he just like all day, not just like in the video when we sat down to talk, but
Uh-huh.
all day, he would like throw these bombs at me, like,
Uh-huh.
so how are you gonna print this? Are you gonna publish her? Which is sort of a softball. And then I would say something like, well, I think I'm probably going to, and he'd be like, stop right there. You need to know what you're doing, you know? And and then he'd look at me like we were in this bookstore and he goes, he walks over, where's the Monkey Mod and Friends show up here? And at first, of course, I was like, well, it's not done yet. It's not up there. And then I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. I was like, well, it's probably in, this section,
Right.
And he goes, okay. You paused on that a little bit. He's like, you need to know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then, where are you going to be in 5 years from now? Where are you going to be? And I'd be like, hopefully, Monkey Mod is like making, a big portion of my income at that point. And he like, no, not hopefully. Say that without hopefully. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, Monkey Mod is making a big part. And he goes, okay, that's that's
Yeah.
a big part of your 5 year plan. But all day, like little things like that. And I
Mhm.
thought like I kind of had it figured out.
Right.
But I also kind of like knew that some of the stuff I was flying by the seat of my pants. And he said enough stuff to where I was like, he's right. I gotta
Yeah.
like I
Right.
gotta like really figure out stuff because like the path to success doesn't just go up. It
Right.
goes brrr, like up and down like that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So there's gonna be the day when I'm up here and I'm like, my plan's working, and guaranteed, it's not if it happens, it's going to happen. I'm gonna go down here,
Right.
and then, man, I got to find out how to get way back. I don't know
Yeah.
if this my hands waving
Yes, it's
is
perfectly
portraying
graphed.
the metaphor,
Yeah.
but it's still like I got to figure out how to get here, but I'm still way down here. And then I get up again. I'm like, okay, I can see it, but then I get back in this valley because
Right.
something failed. Oh
Right.
man, and all these pieces, like you know, mission statements, business plans, weekly schedules, 5 year plans, and stuff like that, are going to help you to traverse that rocky road to get
Wow.
up to the top of the mountain.
Wow.
That's essentially what he was doing for me.
Right.
You know,
Right.
because at first when he was saying all that stuff, I was like, "You just came to visit. I thought we were gonna have fun, and now you're making
Now
me
you.
like
Yeah.
think
You.
and feel kind of bad." But what he was doing was like, like in his way, without even saying it, he was like um, gifting me with this
Right.
like path or not a path, but
He's just giving you advice.
like a plan. Yeah.
Good advice.
And it was like good advice, like really
Yeah.
good advice, better
Yeah.
than you normally get from the
Right.
guy you go have a beer with or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I love watching his little videos. And he talks and he just kind of rambles on about different stuff. But I always find him real intimidating. Like,
Oh,
I
he's not.
no, well, but he's a hard worker.
Oh yeah.
The impression that I get, I mean, I filled up 500 sketchbooks with this, and I'm like, wow, man.
Yeah, I mean, it could be intimidating or it could be motivating.
Yeah, yeah. It's both for me.
Yeah.
Me personally, I spend what I do is, I think what you said is what I do. I look at artwork, for a little bit, or like this podcast,
Right.
I just go around looking at artwork, and I like talking to people that are really good and stuff. And but half of it is just like I'm bitter. Like, oh my god, he's really good. I suck. Oh. But then
Yeah,
I just move, and then I just move on from that. I have my little moment,
yeah,
and then I love it drawing, so I'm not gonna let that stop me.
yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm
that's a,
definitely like that with him. I mean, I like his videos, but there's part of me that's just like, wow, I'll never be. I mean, look at that. Look at that little sketch he's doing in 10 minutes. I'll never be able to do that. But
yeah, but his story, I mean, part of the reason why he's so wise to and everything is because he's done all this stuff. So he's not coming from like a place of speculation or anything like
right,
that.
right.
And if his kind of backstory as a person with what
Mm-hmm.
he's doing now is he sucked really bad at drawing
Uh huh.
and wanted to be a comic book writer. And
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and then he it wasn't really working out. Like he was dealing with either they're flaky artists or this happens a lot where a writer will call an artist flaky. And I'm not saying Will did this, but I see this a lot where a writer calls an artist flaky, but if that artist is not getting paid and they can go get paid somewhere else, they're not going to stick around. So, you know,
Yeah.
so that's something to think about, but I digress. But so Will started off as like a, like a not very good, and he wanted to be a writer. Um, and so he's working with people, and I think they did like one comic or something like that, and then that was it, and he couldn't get artists to stick around or something. So he was like, I guess I have to learn how to do it.
Wow.
And so it got to the point where he was like, well, it looks like I just have to learn how to make art. And
He seems
he
like
did
he
it.
would have and this, I'm not even making a pun. He just has like a will.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Yeah.
totally does. Um,
Wow.
and but also he in addition to that, he will say how all the things we've talked about, how he was the guy who would start and stop stuff, he would get bitter about things, he would, piss and moan
Uh-huh.
and all this kind of stuff. And then I think he got to a point too where he was just like, that doesn't work,
Right.
you know?
Right.
What do I do to make something good? Because what I'm doing now is
Yeah.
not making me feel good. It's not, you know.
Yeah. Hmm.
So so he's gone through this before we did. So
Right.
um, and it was really transformative to his life and stuff. So I know that's why he shares how he does
But
because
he's
he's like
younger, right? He's a young fella, isn't
he's 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 a little younger than us.
he? Okay.
Uh, I think he's 3 or 4 years younger than me.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm. Well, that's neat.
I think he's 39 maybe.
Okay.
So maybe 5 years younger. But yeah, he's younger. But when you start getting older, some of that stuff doesn't matter. It's more the
No,
experience.
no. I just think of all the. I just when I see that, I'm impressed by
Yeah.
people that they were. I don't know why I'm impressed. They were smarter than me. Big deal. It's
Yeah.
not,
Well, I
but
mean, everyone's got like a different story. Everyone's got a different like road in how they
yeah,
got there and stuff like that.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like I'm a late bloomer. I didn't really get serious about art until I was almost 30.
Right.
Um, and other people, I mean, I've been drawing all my life like everybody else who
Hmm.
does this, but I spent most of my 20s, well, in late teens and even after I got into art, playing in punk bands and going on tour and stuff. That was my main focus. Art was that was my fallback, which is
Yeah.
musician was number one, and then art was
Uh,
my fallback, which is pretty risky to have those for career
yeah.
goals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
a life in the
the
arts.
music thing worked for a little bit, and the art thing has worked for a lot longer.
Yeah. That's
Now it's this new path I'm going on. I'm trying to go solo.
Yeah. Yeah. This is exciting. I mean, I look forward to seeing what happens. Um, well, I know what's going to happen, right? You got it all planned out. But
I've got the plan, but I don't know where the failures are going to come. But
yeah.
I know where I'm starting, and I know where I'm what I'm shooting for, where the ending is.
Right.
The ending of that chapter, because at that point,
Yeah.
then it's time to think of like
Yeah.
if like if Monkey Mod and my comic, the Monkey Mind Friends show, gets to that point, and it's my full-time job,
Yeah.
say, then at that point I have to think, how do I keep it? How do I?
Yeah, yeah. Well, your goals will be different then, and
Yeah,
right, and you will have learned so much in
yeah.
between, and maybe you
So
won't even be anywhere near where you thought you'd be, but the place where you're at is going to be great. I mean, compared to where you started,
right,
right?
it's like
I believe that. Like, good things are going to come out of it if what you're doing is good. That's what I tell my kids, man. It's like,
yeah,
if your heart's in it and it's a good things, no matter where you get, it's going to be a good place.
right, right.
Yeah.
A good thing that Will said, um, too, was like, um, you're doing what you absolutely love, right?
Yeah.
So something's got to come out of that, something good, like you're saying, has got to come out of that. But if you got a map and you start at point A and you're looking to get to point B with it, um, it's like, yeah, something good can come out, but you're gonna veer off the road to get a bite to eat. You're gonna go maybe look at like a touristy thing off the side of the road.
Right.
Your car might break down, but all the while, here's the road going straight through. All the while, your path might look like this going to it.
Right.
So, I guess I keep kind of bringing that stuff up because even in the people who are doing 100 Days of Making Comics, I've seen a few like this where they get hit one bump in the road and they stop.
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
like, man, come on, just get over that bump, get back on the road.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Wow.
yeah, there's
This is well. I think this story that you're sharing with everybody is really helping people. I think
I hope so.
produce good comics or whatever their creative, output is.
Right.
Because I think a lot of all the different creative outputs, whether you're making a song or making a painting or I don't know whatever you're doing, making some glass art or something. So
Right.
a very similar process. We all face the insecurities and
Totally.
the path that that you're illustrating for everybody. Like this is how you get there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Our
I mean,
20 minutes is up.
all right.
But I'm sorry I cut you off there. But,
Oh, that's okay. I was just gonna. Well, I guess perfect. You can wrap this up if you want, but um, uh, so I'm on that path that we're talking
yeah.
about, right?
Yeah.
I'm like at the beginning of that path.
Yeah.
But I've got my map. I see the city I'm driving to.
Right.
Um, but if anybody wants to see the ups and downs, the bumps in the road, I just wanted to say, like, point everybody to my YouTube page
Uh-huh.
because I'll be like documenting that, like the highs and lows as I get to where
Right.
I'm going. And
Right.
and there's definitely gonna be highs and there's definitely gonna be lows. It's just a given.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe that will help people
Now,
along too.
now
I'm
the
hoping.
Monkey Mod and Friends show is the comic. There's
Mhm.
a mini comic out from way
Um,
back.
Not anymore.
Okay.
So first I'll say my YouTube channel is youtube.com/KevinCrossArt,
Okay.
or youtube.com/KevinCrossArt.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's right. And then the mini comic is no longer available in print.
Oh, okay.
I've got a Tumblr with a webcomics theme on it right now for a placeholder
Mm-hmm.
over at monkeymod.com.
Mm-hmm.
And people can go there and see the mini comic. It was in black and white, and I colored it, and it's
Oh.
it's all up there for free. Monkeymod.com. Eventually, that will be a more robust website, and not
Right.
just a Tumblr with webcomics theme. But for now, that's the landing page for all Monkey Mod stuff.
Okay. So we got the YouTube. We got monkeymod.com.
Yep.
And I noticed you still have a lot of illustration and stuff on.
Yeah, I've got an illustration portfolio at kevincross.net, and that because of all these like NDAs I've signed and all these like
Uh,
big projects has not been updated in a while, but
yeah,
you
but
can still
but so if you want Kevin to do some illustration work for you, or maybe to work on a comic,
Yeah, we'll
Don't
see.
call.
We'll see, because I'm trying to phase out clients. But
Yeah, yeah.
if the price is right, we might be able to talk.
Okay, all right. Everybody's
If
got a price.
yeah, if you're looking for someone cheap, you might want to go elsewhere. Because I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's kevincross.net. And that's something that will be updated finally this year with more new stuff. Um, but anyway, you can see stuff I've done for kids' books and my comic style art. There's kind of two styles I work in for kids'
Yeah.
books and then one for comics, and those are
Yeah.
represented there.
The jazz style and the
Punk style.
punk style. Yeah, that's cool. I like
Yeah.
that. That's great.
So, but yeah, if you go to my YouTube channel, every single video has in the description underneath the videos, it's got all my links to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So,
Yeah. I'll put it up on my little podcast
cool.
broadcast here, and my mom will click on all those, and it'll be great. So, anyway, appreciate you
Awesome.
coming on. I appreciate you coming on, Kevin. It's been great for me. Real treat,
Cool,
man.
dude.
It's and like I said, this has been a real. This is one of the best conversations I've had. I mean, it articulated so many things that I talk about, that I think about. So maybe I'll be able to just kind of move past all of them instead of struggling with them. I'll just say,
Awesome.
yeah, this is what I'm going through right now. You kind of spelled it out. Like, oh, this is what I'm going through, so I don't have to fret about it. I can just, move on and start drawing.
Yeah, awesome,
I
man.
think that's what people are gonna do, more and more. So, all right. Anyway, great. Thanks for coming on, and I look forward.
Thanks for
Good luck in
thanks for-
2016, and of course you're welcome back anytime. And
Yeah, dude, it's great talking to you. Appreciate it.
Okay.